Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl back again for back to another Disney Plus episode review. I've done one of these since the Loki series. Back then, WandaVision, and then 2-3 weeks later, then Falcon Winter Soldier came out. Then 2-3 weeks later, Loki series came out. I usually have to stay up early in the morning just to watch the first episode. The Hawkeye series, which is completely a surprise to me because I expected just one episode, but they dropped two. Probably as like a extra Thanksgiving kind of treat. So the first two episodes dropped early this morning, and I only saw the first episode early this morning, and when I got home from work, I went to see the second one. I tried to avoid spoilers so that way, nothing gets ruined, so I can come in completely fresh. So far, I'm digging it. I'm glad I read those. Just so you know, they're borrowing heavily from the Matt Fraction's Hawkeye run. It's probably one of the best Hawkeye stories, to date. And you can check out my review of that as well as my recent Kate Bishop Hawkeye run by Kelly Thompson up on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/talkativecarl. And you can also follow me on my other channels, like my Twitch channel where I play tons of video games, twitch.tv/talkativecarl, where I go live usually almost every day around 6 to 7 p.m. Chicago time. I can't remember. It was I'm pretty sure it was West, Pacific time, I think. And also follow me on my Twitter, at Talkative Carl. And follow me on my Patreon if you want to further support the channel. That's patreon.com/talkativecarl. Anyway, yeah, I mean, so far, it's kind of like a Kate Bishop. Obviously, is I think they share the spotlight, as far as the two Hawkeyes in this series. But the first episode laid the groundwork of who Kate is, and it's a nice little, because every once in a while, especially when you're trying to introduce a new character, usually they want to tie them into the Battle of New York during the first Avengers movie. It's just the same thing with how in the Daredevil series, they first couple episodes, I think they mentioned about the incident kind of situation, and at least there's tons of other. Oh, even the first episode of Agents of Shield, they make a reference to the Battle of New York. So that has been a pivotal crux to a lot of people's stories. And Kate was a little girl at the time. Her parents, obviously, having an argument. Then all of a sudden, aliens start showing up. A fight ensuing with the Avengers taking them down. Kate sees Hawkeye, just right across the way, because he lives in a penthouse because her family's rich. If you watch my video of the Kate Bishop run, I mentioned how she comes from a wealthy family. So she witnesses Hawkeye pretty much save her from an alien that's about to dive bomb right into her little girl's bedroom, and Hawkeye just nails it and shoot them right out of the sky. So immediately you see her just became infatuated with Hawkeye and archery, so much to the point where she, during the credits, you see her doing training with bows and arrows and martial arts skills and swordsman skills. She wanted to be a very well trained individual, just to be able to protect her mother, because in this ensuing alien fight, the father ends up dying because debris and falling everywhere, and buildings getting hit. As much as the Avengers try to keep it boxed in instead of spreading out too far out. You guys see an awesome scene where fully grown Kate trying to, for some reason, ring the bell with her arrow, but end up collapsing the whole entire thing down on top of itself, which kind of infuriates her mother because she had to pay for all that kind of situation. But you get to understand where Kate's head at, and which is pretty cool. Haley Steinfeld. I mean, yeah, I was eager to see how she would pull this off. I'm not disappointed at all. And I just found out today. I don't know why. I should have been known. Some friends of mine told me that she was the voice of Spider-Gwen in the movie Into the Spider-Verse, and I'm like, oh yeah. And she was the little girl in True Grit with Jeff Bridges. She's been in quite a few things, despite being in her 20s. She's been in a decent amount of things, and it's wow, she's beautiful, talented, and everything like that. It's just amazing. It's just amazing on her part. I keep wanting to say Haley Seinfeld, and that's wrong, but it's you one letter away from being Seinfeld. I don't know. It's just God, I just want to say Seinfeld. I'm pretty sure she probably guessed that a lot. Seinfeld, what's the deal with arrows? What's the deal with bows and arrows? I'm pretty sure she gets that a lot. We get introduced to the new stepdad that Eleanor, her mother, who, given the fact that I been reading those Hawkeye runs for the channel, I half expect. Now this is we're going in this slight spoiler territory. If you had read the comics or watched any kind of reviews of the Hawkeye comics, Eleanor seems like she could be a possible bad guy. Now, what much I read is hinted at, given the fact that the Kate Bishop Hawkeye comic book Kelly Thompson run, and in that she was working with, seemed like she was working with or using Madam Mask. So obviously she's in some bad guy stuff, but it wasn't fully fleshed out. I didn't continue on to because it might be in an entirely different comic book run, but it just seems like Eleanor might be into some bad stuff. But we'll see how this played out, because obviously it's going more. They take some liberties, obviously, even though they're making obvious references to Kelly Thompson. I mean, not Kelly Thompson, but Matt Fractions, who's also I think co-writing the series, at least helping the series along. He's on set helping things along. So yeah, I mean, it'd be cool to have Kelly Thompson on there to help with the Kate Bishop stuff, but they have to, because the two of the probably the best Hawkeye stories I've read, and I haven't read much. And here's the thing. I get to some people's point of view. They don't think Hawkeye is that important. He's kind of just there. He's bland and what have you. And it's and he sometimes attribute that to Black Widow as well. But I'm if you think that, you might as well also think Daredevil is whack, because he technically, I mean, he has superpowers, but it's super senses kind of situation. But it all depends. I keep telling people, it all depends who's writing these characters, because even if it's not a Hawkeye or Black Widow centered story, if they're supporting characters, in another superhero's book or in an Avengers comic, the writer, by and large, probably not going to write them to to the standards that we expect them to be. Matt Fractions and Kelly Thompson adore these characters, and they made them not perfect, but relatable and easy to understand. And because anybody can easily pick up. I took archery for my birthday, and I really want to go back because it's hella fun. But it's like, if you train at it, you can easily be Hawkeye. People always say like, "Oh, you can easily be Batman." No, you can't. Batman fits a particular category that very, very little people would manage to fit in, because you talking about like a guy who been like studying since his like early teens at the most, in some iterations, to go overseas to train in like art of escapeology, ninjutsu, all forms of martial arts, and like detective skills and science, mechanical engineering, and he gotta be physically fit like almost every day, just to be like in such great shape. And it's like, that's also helps with the fact that he's that dedicated of a person, and very little amount of people have that kind of dedication to do what Batman does. Hawkeye, extremely fit too, but he can easily take, as Kate Bishop mentions, I took some judo classes. You can easily take a judo class and just a couple of martial arts skills, study those two things, and like you can pick up a skill like a bow and arrow, or swordsmanship, and it's feasible. And it's like, just like the Daredevil series, I like the fact that again, like the Matt Fractions Hawkeye run, it's just like with Daredevil. It's like, he's not perfect, he gets beat up, but he still managed to come out on top despite everything. He's like legit a great character if he's if you get like a writer to give a damn. And because he's not boring, he's only boring because a writer treats him like it's boring, because they think he's boring. You don't come into that with that kind of mindset, because nobody's gonna look at that character in like a better light. And I think Matt Fractions and Kelly Thompson really achieved making Kate Bishop and Clint really good characters for the most part, for a lot of people, and I happen to agree, but more so than them. But by and large, the best moment Clint had was in Age of Ultron, where he's giving Scarlet Witch that pep talk when she's freaking out while they're fighting the army of robots. It's like, yeah, none of this makes sense, but I'm going out there because it's my job. If you go out there, you are an Avenger. And it's like, that scene by itself is worth the price of admission, because that was an impressively well acted on Jeremy Renner's part. And anyway, Kate, is introduced to the the stepdad to be, who, if you don't know, in the comics, is the swordsman who helped raise Clint in the circus. Who because Clint, because I mentioned in the Matt Fractions that Clint comes from an abusive household. At least two ones. Like, his biological father beat him and his little brother, while the mother just didn't do anything. And then he got drunk. Him and the wife got killed in a car accident. Then the adoptive, a father who adopted him and his brother, abused them too. Physically abused them too. Like beat them. And it's like they just seem like they can't catch a break until that guy got killed by a swordsman, and I forgot his partner in crime's name in the circus, like Marksman or something like that. I can't remember, but they helped raise Clint and his brother better, despite them being, supervillains in a way. But you get, some people might not know, that soon to be stepdad is the swordsman, because it's kind of obvious. Because it didn't dawn on me until like halfway through episode 2, where you see all these swords, and then you see him and Kate kind of like, she's trying to get information from him because she like obviously suspect him of hiding something, and they practice fencing, but obviously she's like trying to force something out of him, and you can tell like Kate Bishop, despite her skill, she's obviously still green, and the fact that she's overplaying her hand, trying to force a confession out of a guy that's probably been doing this for a long time and knows how to cover his tracks. She's not gonna get him to spill any kind of beans. And there's a funny moment where he's like trying to relate to her by like, oh, I read some parenting tips about being a stepdad, so it's like, she's only lashing out, but she wanted to set boundaries. It's like, once I heard that dialogue, oh my god, I kind of cringed, like, oh god. But then again, I thought about it. I was like, that's still good writing, because it's like, how many times in like certain movies and TV shows when like you're dealing with like a step parent, and the kid has to learn that general thing that any psychologist would tell you about, like, you gotta allow them to set the boundaries, and blah blah blah. And he just like took the piss right out of that, and it's like, yeah, she's not gonna like do any of that. She is like, yeah, you are an asshole, and I can tell you're an asshole. And just the facial expressions Haley Steinfeld makes all the difference, because like I love her facial expressions. It is equals part cute and equal parts great acting. It's just subtle things he does for her face, and it's just like, I love it. She's like so good. I think for the most part I probably heard her from voice acting, but I just don't realize it's Haley Steinfeld half the time. I'm pretty sure she's a household name, but just like, this is going to, just like with Guardians of the Galaxy, she'll be known across the board for a long time. And I'm still waiting for that shoe to drop with Yelena Belova after the events of Black Widow. I'm pretty sure maybe halfway through the series she'll pop in, possibly maybe episode 4, because Elaine Bennis from Seinfeld, the bad guy. I forgot her doggone comic book name, but I just think of her as Elaine Bennis. I will always think of her as Elaine Bennis. So Elaine pretty much like is trying to form some kind of evil Avengers or Dark Avengers. Obviously, she's trying to form a Dark Avengers, and she's recruiting Yelena as like the Dark Black Widow, pretty much, and trying to recruit her. In the exchange, she gets to be pointed to the direction who she wanted her to believe is one responsible for Natasha's death, and blaming on Clint. So now she's Clint has a target on his back that has yet to be revealed, because he doesn't know about Yelena. Hardly anybody knows about Yelena. For all they know, Black Widow never had any family. It was just them. This is gonna be a huge surprise waiting in the wings. But Clinton's out with his children, spending time in the city, watching this Captain America on Broadway, or at least Avengers on Broadway, and you could tell he's like uncomfortable being there, and it's like, it's such a, people was excited to see this kind of Broadway stuff. I'm not a Broadway person, but even still, it looked kind of cringy, especially the fact that when they had like this, the Hulk guy, it's like, Hulk smash, Hulk smash, Hulk smash. It's like, oh my god, this is, I can't look at this. But then you see like the actress who's dressed as Black Widow doing her interpretive dance, and you can still see like him, just like in Peter Parker and Far From Home that I just reviewed. It's also on the channel if you want to check out my thoughts on that movie. But you can tell, just like with Peter with Iron Man, Clint is still reeling from Natasha's death. She in part sacrificed herself for them to get this second chance. And you know, if you recall from Endgame, he was willing to like throw his life away in order to get the Soul Stone, but you know, Natasha beat him to it. And you know, in a way, I guess it's like survivor's guilt in a way. And I wouldn't say he's having like panic attacks like, you know, Tony did in Iron Man 3, but you can tell he's like, you know, it's like he can't even look at a person dressed as Natasha without thinking about her sacrifice, because he was the closest to her out of all of them. You know, they was partners in Shield for a very long time, and the fact that, you know, his closest friend that he ever had, you know, is gone. You're never gonna see her again. And it's like a moment in the bathroom, two moments. One, when he's going to the urinal and you see, just like you see like people like doing those doodles on walls and, you know, all of this, you know, random surfaces. You see on the urinal that he's at, and somebody marked Thanos was right. And it's, I mean, to an Avenger, you would think that would be like extremely offensive, you know? I mean, he shrugged it off, but it's like I don't know who, you know, would have wrote that, but it was like, you know, straight up assholes. You know, it's like just the most disrespectful thing. You know, I imagine it's probably some kind of punk kid who thought that was funny. But then you got this other dude who just shows up. This men bathroom etiquette. And you don't just come in unless it's packed. That's probably the only stipulation. Unless it's packed, you don't go straight up to a urinal right next to another guy using another urinal, because it has to be like a cushion space between each other. This is like 6 feet before 6 feet was a thing. You know, between two people, you know, outside the pandemic. It's like there's a person on a urinal, then the free stall, then another person on a urinal. So that way there's no like looky-loos, or, I mean, it's like I know it sounds paranoid, but it's just like, you know, it's just guys want to have that imaginary barrier. It just makes us feel comfortable. You know what I mean? And it's just like so awkward and weird. Just dude just whoop, just there. And then, I mean, obviously he's a fan of Hawkeye, but he's obviously like, oh, like, you know, at least a couple of times he wasn't, you know, pestering about it, but he obviously wanted like a get a photo with him. And it's like, dude, it's like right in the urinal, dude. You want to ask him for, it's like any celebrity. We just trying to, you're gonna make them feel trapped in the bathroom, and like they essentially feel held hostage unless they sign something or take a picture of you. You're just gonna give them like a bad experience. You know, at the very least, wait till they leave outside the urinal before you ask, so that way they don't feel like they're being held hostage. That's just rude. You know, it drives me crazy when I, you know, see or hear something like that, because it's no taste at all. I mean, it's like, I'm a huge fan of Jim Carrey. If I'm somehow at some kind of function and using the bathroom, and Jim Carrey is like literally right there, I'm going to keep my mouth shut, you know, use the bathroom, wash my hands, and then, you know, and then, you know, I'll say hi and acknowledge him. And when we both are out of the bathroom, I want to like see if I can ask for an autograph for a picture. And I'm pretty sure he'll be, you know, like, you know, because you don't want a picture in a bathroom, because that'll just look weird. But I'll be like cordial and just wait until you get out in a bathroom, and then like ask politely. And it's like, if they don't feel like doing it, they don't feel like doing it. But usually they cool, especially when it comes to someone like Keanu Reeves or Jim Carrey. They just like genuine nice people, and I'm pretty sure they'll be more happily to oblige. But even probably more so if you had the courteousness to wait until you're out of the bathroom and at least mention, like, I didn't want to say it in the bathroom. I didn't want to make it look weird, so I figured, like, wait till we leave, then I can ask you if I can just, it'll be okay that I can get a picture with you, and I'm pretty sure they will be, you know, thinking it'll be like a good on you, man, for like, taking my feelings into account and stuff like that, because it's people who get starstruck don't take, because celebrities are people, you don't take their feelings into account. Anyway, they go to this big gala. Kate and I keep forgetting. I keep wanting to call him Swordsman because I can't remember his real name. But her mother and the Swordsman go out to this gala where the Swordsman's father, or no, uncle, was also there. And it was there when, like, Kate realized about, like, oh, did you not know they're, like, engaged? Like, no, I did not. Of course, Kate's not having it. She was like very protective. She adored her father, but the fact that, it's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B, where she's obviously like, feeling uneasy with some guy that is not her father, a little girl who lost her father in a tragic, weird situation, and some dude, stepping in, trying to, in a sense, replace him. At least she, back of her mind, even though she probably don't want to admit it, feel like you interloping. And she even mentions, like, I think she said interloper to him, but also she, is smart enough to acknowledge the fact that, like, she got a whiff that he's not on the up and up. And it's not just because she just don't like him as a potential stepfather or anything like that. I don't think, like, anybody, her mother Dave would be sitting too well with her. But it doesn't help she also suspects is up to something. And then she follows him into the secret passage where there's like some secret auction going on underneath the building with, a bunch of people, rich stiffs, along with Swordsman and his uncle. And the auctioneer is auctioning off, a Triceratops skull, and then it's Hawkeye's Ronin costume. Somehow they picked up, I don't know how, and where and when that even got, taken, because I don't know where Clint would have put it after, Natasha got him from Tokyo to help with the mission on resetting what Thanos had done. Like, where did he, stick that costume if it was not in storage in some capacity? Unless he had it in the Avengers mansion, and then Thanos blew it up, and then I guess maybe after the cleanup, somehow, somebody nabbed the costume or something. That's probably the only logical thing I can think of, because there's no inconceivable way anybody can get their hands on it. Even if they got it off the black market, somebody had taken it at some point to put it on the black market. Maybe not a whole episode, but at least a little bit of like a quarter of the episode, maybe 10 minutes, showing somebody finding it, in like a riverbank or something, realize what it is, and then, put it on eBay or something like that. I don't know. But then there's a break-in by some tracksuit mafia dudes who's been like one of the main antagonists in Matt Fraction's Hawkeye. Excuse me. And Kate Bishop end up putting that thing on so she can keep her identity a secret while she's, probably one of the most kick-ass scenes so far that I've saw, where in the Ronin costume she just beating up, people in this little basement winery, uh, and like whipping wine bottles around and knocking people all over the place. But she nearly getting her butt whooped herself because she's, like I said, she's still green. She's not like 100% like perfect of a hand-to-hand fighter, but she can still hold her own. She escapes. Uh, uh, like on her way out, she sees like this dog Lucky, who we know from Mad Fractions. She saw earlier, you know, while she was like getting some air outside the party, and then she saves the dog from being kicked by one of the drivers for the Tracksuit Mafia. So she runs, takes the dog back to her apartment while and fed him pizza. This pizza dog, mind you, and the dog is looks very cute. She I feel like the writer or at least showrunners actually got a dog with a one eye kind of situation, and that is just like a clever thing. Unless they CGI the left eye closed, which could be possible. But unless somebody with like a well trained eye can say whether or not that looks real or fake, I'm leading to believe it's probably like CGI the eye shut just to, because you won't. It's like, how often do you find like one-eyed dogs? I'm pretty sure they're out there, but it's not like an obvious thing. Or at least like they're not like super everywhere. But anyway, she goes back to the uncle's place just to see if she can try to either question him or find some clues. She finds him dead. She leaves. Then she's like getting caught on camera and everything like that. So everybody suspecting Ronan's back after the short ordeal where he where Clint was killing a lot of bad guys, including the Tracksuit Mafia members, and they all assume that it's Clint, Hawkeye. Except for Kate. Well, no, they knew that was Kate because she ended up, I won't say ignorantly, she came back to her apartment where she ended up meeting up with Clint after he saved her from being jumped by some Tracksuit Mafia. They go to her spot. Then they realize, if you went anywhere before this moment, they more than likely would have tracked you. So they tracked her, down and before and waited her to like show back up. And then, this is Kate Bishop's, place. So, and just so you know, in the first two episodes, you don't see Hawkeye shoot a bow at all yet. I'm pretty sure they're saving it for episode 3, but it's a cool moment where Hawkeye, just for some reason, just try to, because they left after they eventually got the suit, they left it, in the apartment that ended up burning down thanks to the Tracksuit Mafia throwing Molotov cocktails into the window. But there was one awesome moment that you see in the trailer where Hawkeye catches it and he throws it right back so fast. And it was like one, swift move, and that was so good. But when Kate's place, nearly burned down, she, and then Clint tried to come back to see what was left, and the suit is pretty much gone, while most of the place is torched. So he realized somehow some kid who turns out to be Grills from the Mad Fractions, the skinny kid who likes to play LARPing or live action role playing, where people like just go dress up into these kind of Ren Fair kind of situations. And that's, you see Clint having to sign up just to get inside so he can try to get his Ronin costume back from this TikToker who apparently somehow got a hold of the this costume while it was inside of a burning building. But then he's posting on TikTok in that costume, which I imagine that should have pissed Clint off a bit, and probably did. He just was very like close to the chest, reserved kind of dude. Was Haley, not Haley Steinfeld, Kate Bishop makes fun of in a later scene, but he just to wrap up, because it's going over 30 minutes. The kid hands off, because the kid agreed to, like, hey, I will lose, just we'll need to do like a proper duel, and if you let me win, I'll give you a suit back. And it's like, after he's like signed up, you see Clinton like just utilizing the fake sword and just like dominating everybody with like just killing these random kids at this LARPing scenario, and just like a fluid motion, like whip whip whip. And it's like the one moment when he's like taking down this girl before he gets to grill, he like just bonks her, and she's screaming bloody murder, like and it's like the cool moment between Grills and Clint, where he's like, Grills like, admit it, you had fun, and like Clint just smiles like, yeah, okay, I had a little fun, cause like a friend of mine, Anita, like her boyfriend and her friend Allie, goes to these Ren fairs, at least like a couple of times a year. I mean, maybe once a year, when it's usually in the fall. And she showed me pictures, and it was like, it looked like a lot of fun. I never been to a Ren fair before. I imagine it's obviously something similar. It's obviously, but here's the thing, from what I've been told, and even so, from like an episode of South Park I saw a long time ago, where the boys go to this Ren fair, and the people working there has to stay in character until their shift is over completely. You cannot break character whatsoever. Pretty much, no matter what. I guess maybe it depends on like a particular emergency, maybe like oh yeah, your house was broken into, or like something happened to your parents or something like that. It has to be extreme emergencies for them to like just dip out and break character kind of situation. It probably has to be on that level. Otherwise, you will get fired. According to my friend, you will get fired if you break character before your shift is over. That's just how it is. And I was like, they are strict, but it does look fun. Yeah, and you get to dress up. I mean, it's optional where guests, or attendees come dress. It's kind of like the same way with like Comic-Con. It's like you're not obligated to come dress, but it's just you'll probably get into it if you do, at least a little bit more so, and be part of the fun if you do dress up. I'll probably be like an archer, because like I'm surprised he didn't be an archer. I don't know if they even allow archers. They probably should, but it's mostly swords people, fake swords and axes. But yeah, that was a little funny thing. I think it's probably one of my favorite scenes, like at least one of the favorite scenes, just to have Clint just messing around in a Ren fair. It's like, where do you see that ever? And just genuine Renner is like, acts so beautifully in this, and a lot of these scenes, but that one's my favorite one of his. That was so much fun to watch. But then, Clint, after he gets, he stores the Ronin costume away, and is calling his wife, who played Velma from the old Scooby-Doo live action movies, at least the first two live action movies that came out. She played Velma. It was like early 2000s when this happened, and she still kind of looked like Velma, just like a little bit older, but not too old. I mean, this is like she has aged gracefully, and you can hear Velma in the voice. Even though she's not doing Velma, she's still in that the voice, the tone is still Velma. Like, I can see you peeking through there, Velma. I can see you. Uh, but then it's like the kids are like making gingerbread houses and everything like that. It's fun little moments with the kids because usually kids suck in certain things if they're not directed well. But the kids and their interaction with Clint is just very good. Especially when it comes to the daughter, especially because it's gonna be a lot of father and daughter relationships. It's gonna be a running theme of that, obviously. Given the fact that what I've read from Kate Bishop's run, is gonna be a lot of parent and daughter dynamics going on, and I can imagine that's gonna be pulled a little bit into this series too, because obviously losing a father at a very young age, she probably would see Clint as like a more suitable father figure for her. But Clint gets, he put himself as a bait to get the tracksuit guys to take him so he can try to end this stuff as quickly as possible, because he has 5 days to try to get, because he wants to get, he promised his daughter he'll be there for Christmas, and he has 5 days. So it's pretty much Die Hard with bows and arrows, straight up. And so the tracksuit mafia guys, got a hold of Clint. And then, Kate, who's trying to save him, like I said, she's new at this superhero stuff. She falls through the roof. It's just so, like the whole pratfall of it all. And it's just so funny. And it's just, the facial expression says it all. It's like, I love Haley Steinfeld's facial expressions when she's just like the certain cues he does is like so good, and it's kind of adds to the funny, and so they both are like tied up, while one of the lead tracksuit mafia guys, I'm pretty sure they're supposed to be tracksuit Dracula himself from the Matt Fractions, because I seen that guy, the actor, in other stuff as like I'm not sure if he was in like that what's that TV show with the guy who played Sabretooth in the Wolverine Origins film, that little TV show he had for a good long time. He plays that fixer kind of dude. I forgot the doggone. I'm pretty sure he was in that in the early seasons or something similar to that. That's because I know I recognize his face in other stuff, and I just cannot get those references out my head. I cannot recall the names of any shows or movies, but I've seen them. And he's talking to this woman who's supposed to be Echo from the comics. It's kind of like, I won't say low rent villain, but she's kind of like a bad guy to the Hawkeyes. So it'll be interesting to see, how that leads into episode 3, because she's obviously in charge of the tracksuit mafia. So so far this series has given me Daredevil Netflix vibes, because like it seems like it's in that realm of like that high budgeted TV show, and or at least working with like just enough budget to make it so good, well crafted. So I'm excited for episode 3 next week to see where that leads. So leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think so far of episode 1 and 2 of Hawkeye series. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff to Talkative Carl on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. And happy Thanksgiving. I will be briefly back tomorrow. I don't think I'll feeling up to going back into Pokemon Brilliant Diamond tonight, but maybe tomorrow. But look for tomorrow, where I first and foremost want to get my new chaotic lore videos out. There, I got some brand new ones out that I've been working on all November so far. And I think one in particular is fitting, doing like a character profile on one particular character from the chaotic series. And I think it's fitting he should be out for Thanksgiving, and it's gonna be Peyton Towie, the last member of the 4 main cast of the chaotic series. I'll have his video up and a couple other videos after that for the channel, so look forward to that if you are very much into the chaotic lore videos, because I'm getting a lot of views for those. Like, there's so much fans for this show, and like I'm thinking about doing another lore video for another thing after, depending on what else that I got going on. I want to do one for Zatch Bell, I believe. I think Zatch Bell I want to do one for as well whenever I get around to doing like a series review of that. After I do a complete series review of Zatch Bell, that's probably like another lore video I want to do for the channel. So yeah, look forward to all that. But it's not anytime soon, but it's something I've been toying in my mind for quite a while since I started the lore videos. So yeah. Anyway, I'll see you guys soon. Have a great and happy and safe Thanksgiving. And yeah, love you all 3000.